Hey, good morning, everybody. J-Rod Shelton is here to bring you the podcast that you've all been waiting for. Not. We're going to talk about the Big Bass Bash and a big hailstorm. So, we did the predictions of the Big Bass Bash. I predicted it would be one on a lizard. I think it was one on some type of Ned rig. How powerful is the Ned rig? Well, apparently it's extremely powerful. And I did learn something. So the guy that won it on sort of a white colored Ned rig. Now, hear me out here. For years and years and years, we have used white lizards. We've used white craws. Anything white on the bed so we could see it very easily. And when they pick it up, the white's gone, set the hook, boom, you've got your fish. The problem with a lizard or a brush hog or anything with a large appendages on it, they will grab it by the tail or the leg or whatever, or halfway, take it off of the bed and then drop it. Now, we were early enough in the spawn. I mean, these are the very first fish to come up to bed and to spawn on Lake of the Ozarks. So, these are fish that will probably hang on to your bait a little bit longer and probably inhale that bait. Those males that have pulled up there and will be on the beds for over a week time frame and maybe have been caught before or are getting very spooky and weary are the notorious ones for just grabbing something by the tail, pulling it off the bed, and then dropping it. And they get very good at doing this very fast, especially when there's a lot of bluegill around and things that they have been dealing with, trying to keep things out of their nest and get their spawning done. So, the Ned rig makes so much sense. 3 inches, 3.5 inches, it's small. When they inhale it, it's gone. You've got them. You've at least have a better chance of hooking them in the mouth, which if you see a bedfish, you have to catch that fish inside the mouth. Just like any other bait in California or the other states. In a tournament, I didn't read through the Big Bass Bash rules. I'm not really sure if those rules are in the Big Bass Bash rules, but in most situations, you have to hook that fish inside the mouth, and a Ned rig will help you do that. It's so small and compact. I like using a tube, but I really like this concept. Now, I have used this at Table Rock a lot because I probably will already have the Ned rig tied on, and I pitch it up in there, and it works great, especially on smallmouth, especially on Kentucky bass. So I've used the Ned rig on beds before, but it really didn't cross my mind to use the Ned on these fish at Lake of the Ozarks. Okay, for us, we fished. My wife and I, my daughter and I, and Huck. So we had my wife, my daughter, and Huck. Just like if we were out fun fishing for crappie, we just went out and had fun. Now, I have to give them an apology. I tried my best to keep it a low-key and not think about $100,000 for a fish, and I tried to keep it as low-key as possible. It was a little bit tough with the weather. We had some weather rolled through by the end of the day on Saturday. Luckily, it was at the end of the day, a huge hailstorm came in, and we were actually under the dock by then, and it didn't affect us too bad, but it was a very bad hailstorm. And we actually got some cowling damage on the back of my motor, but that was it. The worst part was I was still stuck on the dock. They were up into the house, so it was great for them. Not so great for me and Huck. We were still on the dock. We were cleaning some crappie, and we got caught in it down there, but all good. We never got hit. We had plenty of room to get out of the way, but it was a doozy. It was a bad one. Golf ball size hail, and it was coming down hard for several minutes. It hailed constantly for at least 10 minutes, and I'm surprised that we didn't have more damage than we did. But we survived that, and Sunday was, after that hailstorm hit, we had a cold front. It had brought cold weather, and I thought, this is going to shut the fish off. It is going to be super tough. I would venture to say that we caught more fish on Sunday than we did on Saturday. They were really biting the spinnerbait, and I noticed on Saturday there were fish that were trying to spawn, but the majority of the fish that we found were still chasing shad around. They were still kind of backed off. They weren't really up there on the bank too much. And there was a few fish up there, but there wasn't that, hey, they're spawning, I throw a Ned rig around and catch just buck after buck after buck after 12-incher after 10-incher after 12-incher, just over and over and over. So a lot of the fish had actually moved out. And I mean, when I say move out, they were suspended in maybe that 6 to 8 foot range. Some was shallower. You could throw, there's fish scattered all over the place, and they just weren't really moved up on the bed. So that spinnerbait came into play. Kalista, my 7-year-old daughter, she actually caught a 3-pounder on a spinnerbait, and that fish was away from the bank. I would say it was over 8 foot of water, but you know, her spinnerbait was probably about 3 foot deep. So that fish had either chased it or moved up off the bottom and ate it. So there was a lot of shad eating still going on. So your spinnerbaits were a key player. There was tons of fish weighed in on a spinnerbait. On Saturday, we'll back to Saturday, I actually started throwing a shaky head. I tied one on for my wife, and she was catching fish on the shaky head on an 8-inch trick worm and red bug on the shaky head, just a normal old spinning rod setup. So I started throwing a Magnum shaky head with a big Slinko on it from Yamamoto, and that is going to be a key player, I can tell. Now, we weighed all our fish that we weighed them on our scales in the boat, and we caught a lot of fish in the 2.5 pound range. So most of those were bucks. I think we did catch one big fatter 3 pound in the 3 pound range that she looked like a female. She looked like she had a lot of eggs, either that or it was a really fat male. And we didn't catch anything over 3 pounds. Now, first thing in the morning on Saturday, we did catch one on a frog. There was so much debris and sawdust and logs and things in the water that it was couldn't really throw a buzzbait through it. It was almost hard to flip through it because there was so many leaves and stuff on the top. So I tied on a frog, and I caught one about 4 pounds, and I knew that would not get a check. If I should have kept it to try to get that 400 prize money, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. It was kind of first thing in the morning. I really had only made about 3 casts, and come to find out, there was 2 fish trying to spawn under this log that was transitioning into pea gravel, and pea gravel was a key player because they're really wanting to get on that and spawn. But if you were around Chunk Rock, you might catch a few, but if you got around pea gravel, that's where the majority of the fish were at, which makes sense this time of year. They really like spawning on that pea gravel. But anyway, I think there was a bed there. I could see another one under that log, and we actually broke off on that fish. My wife had a lizard, and and we actually broke it off. So that was unfortunate. But the first one that hit was the male, and it actually came up and hit a frog. So why didn't we really run that pattern? Well, it was hard to run that it's hard to run any pattern when there's 2,000 boats on the lake. So we just put our head down and fished. We just fished what we could. We would go weigh in. Kalista she caught some crappie to weigh in. She caught some bluegill around the dock. So we went to PB2. PB2 was ran outstanding. I was really worried that we would get down there and it would be very hard to scramble through all the people and it would be crowded, and it was not at all. The entire weigh-in, the entire PB2 area was super easy to get in and out of, and we never had to wait in line to tie a boat up to go weigh in. We never really had to wait in line to weigh fish. It was just absolutely ran very well and went very smooth. So we ended up fishing a lot right around close to PB2. And as I started to mention earlier, we were catching fish on the shaky head, and our best 5 every day would have went between 15 and 16 pounds, which is really, really good. The fishing has been good, but on the tournament weights, it hasn't been just extremely good. So I'd say with a kid and a dog in the boat and just fishing family-wise, we did fairly well for just having fun. So keepers total, we caught between 10 and 15 keepers a day, maybe more than that. We weren't really counting, and most of those did come on the shaky head slinko and a 8-inch red bug trickworm, and several on a spinnerbait. But there was only a handful. There was at least 5 or 6 keepers caught on a spinnerbait, but the majority definitely on the shaky head. Now, it was a little tough to fish that. I didn't break off. I lost a big one on a big 7-inch Cinco in a brush pile. It just came off in the brush. It happens. I did throw the glide bait a lot, trying to get that real big bite, and just did not hook up with anything on the glide. I didn't even see a follower on it. And that was the majority of what we tried. I tossed a chatterbait around a little bit. I tossed a big square bill around a little bit. But we kind of stuck with those spinnerbaits, and we were getting so many bites on the shaky head that we stuck with that. So overall, we had a great time. Kalista ended up getting second place on Sunday for bass. She got a trophy, and she ended up getting a toy that they gave away. So kudos to the Terrell family. Thank you so much for putting on a terrific tournament. Alan, everybody on the mic, everybody did a great job, and we had fun as usual at the Big Bass Bash. So thank you for listening. If you have any more questions about what the glaze looks like, what the water temperature is like in there, shoot me an email or a direct message on any of the social media platforms. I'm Jared H. Shelton at Instagram and Jared Shelton Fishing on Facebook. So hit me up with any questions you have. Thanks for listening, and I will see you guys at Kentucky Lake for the Toyota Series this week. I think it's going to be a good one.